Okay, guys, just some quick notes on the rhetorical analysis. As you guys know, the test is coming up. The exam is coming up next week. And we've been doing this all year, so I kind of feel like you guys have had plenty of exposure to it. I've tried to give you enough practice. But I'm just going to go back and revisit a couple of points here, right? First thing, you got to make sure you choose your weapon. If you like Space Cat, I know I've been pushing Space Cat. You can use Space Cat. If you like Soapstone, you can use Soapstone. If you like Miss Fury's Flap Cap, you can use Flap Cap. Whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to use the last one, I don't know what the hell that is. I don't even know how to say that. Anyway, the thing is, you want to go through the different elements of the analysis and choose the strongest one. Okay, you don't have to include each letter of Space Cat or each part of Soapstone. You just want to have considered them and pick the strongest ones to include in your analysis to write about. So if tone isn't the major thing, leave it out, right? It could be, depending on the sample. Okay, so take the most important element and write about that. Right? If you use Space Cat, then maybe it's speaker, maybe it's purpose, maybe it's choice in this particular one. Other times, you may want to include the exigence and the tone. It just depends. It's different for every sample that they give you. One thing about this test that's coming up, they're going to give you different ones within the group. So don't waste all your time texting each other to try to find out if you each one have the same sample. You're going to have different ones. And if you spend all the time that you should be reading and brainstorming, Googling and texting and all this stuff to try to cheat, you're really going to hurt yourself. So just trust yourself. Trust that you know what you're doing. Don't text anybody to try to find out if they have the same one as you. Just go ahead with it and analyze it and write. You guys have been writing all year. You should be fine. The thesis. I've been drilling the thesis thing over and over and over again. So have a thesis for beep's sake. You need it to make it one sentence. Make it easy to pick out. Make it stand out so that they don't have to look at it. I know some of you are advanced writers. I know some advanced writers spread their thesis out over multiple sentences. They want it to be something that they can grab and pick out quickly. Be explicit. Don't imply stuff. Okay? Come out and say it. If there's some part of it that you need to read between the lines, put another part in there so that it's explicit, right? Come out and explain it. Don't worry about, writing too much. I think they like it when you write a lot, right? So it should also imply the direction of your paper. They should read that thesis and they should know everything that's coming. Have a phrase for each one of your body paragraphs and make it the same order as you're going to write your body paragraphs, okay? So that they can get up after reading your introduction and pretty much know what's coming, okay? Make sure you develop your argument. Use atonement construction with the premise, the backing, the warrant is the thing that connects it. Have some kind of proof for everything you're saying, and make sure that proof lines up with what it is you are in fact saying. Make sure you cite the sample, right? Throw quotes in there. Cite the directions, right? If they give, some things in that little block at the top about the background of the person who wrote it, they're not trying to test you on your knowledge of that person. They're assuming that you've never heard of that person or you've never read this particular thing. But use their directions and make sure you cite it. Have some kind of proof for everything that you're saying. The style point is elusive. It's been very difficult, and many of you guys are going to have a hard time getting it. But here's some things you can do to try to chase that style point. Mix up your sentence variety. Have complex sentences and simple ones mixed together, right? Vary your syntax. Don't have all your sentences seem the same, right? Mix things up in there a little bit. Have some compound ones, right? Have some complex sentences. Elevate your language. Flex some of that vocab. Unless you don't understand the word and you don't know if you're using it correctly, and you guys know who you are in the group who've been doing that all year. But go back over those vocab lessons we had back in those good old days when we were actually at school, right? Just rifle through those lists, or maybe go back and look at Sonny's Quizlets and refresh your memory to try to throw some of that stuff in there, right? It's going to help. It's going to elevate your language and make it seem like it's worth that style point. I didn't just give you those rhetorical devices so you could pick them out and throw them back at us as identified. You can also use them, right? So use some anaphora in there, right? Like, to score a high grade, you must be correct. To score a high grade, you must be precise. To score a high grade, you must be consistent. Notice, that repetition, they like it. It sounds poetic. Use a zeugma, right? Where you link the verb together with multiple subjects, right? He couldn't control the virus or his temper, right? Something like that. They love to see that. Throw a semicolon in there. They enjoy the variety in their punctuation, right? If you can enjoin two related independent clauses with that semicolon, they love that. That's a mark of an experienced writer. Here's some don'ts, right? Don't say the author uses diction. I was screaming out loud when I read that many times, right? The author has to use diction, right? If he's using words, he's using diction. Don't say he uses syntax. He has to use syntax. The author uses tone. There is always a tone. Say how he's using it, right? The author's formal and moralistic diction creates a feeling that the speaker is looking down upon the audience. Something like that, where it's making a judgment about the diction, not saying he uses diction. And I'm going to include this website here, which has some nice adjectives to describe diction in there. I've given you some other lists. Don't, see how the score of the author uses diction. Pow, you're knocking him out. So I'm going to include that list again with this assignment. There's going to be some cheat sheets that you can have out with you. One is the one I made that you've seen already. A couple of the other ones I've ferreted away from my Facebook group. See which one you like, and have a couple of them out so that you can look it over before the test. Okay, but most of all, be confident, and I know you guys are going to do well. Take care.